And before this video begins, I would just like to thank my Asbantium level patron, Foul and Cortez. Thank you for supporting the channel. We're 1 week closer to Doctor Who Season 2, and obviously things are getting more and more exciting the more we learn. We've had 2 und ein Harbo trailers now, and all the episode titles were revealed with flashy little title cards, just like they were last time around. And of course the BBC waited until I was on holiday to do that. They clearly hate me so much. Could be worse. Next month I'm in Italy when my Robot Revolution review comes out. That crunching will be fun. Anyway, we know more than ever about Season 2, and it's shaping up to be a very exciting season that's hopefully a return to form for Doctor Who. Although I feel like I've been saying that every series for the last 7 or so years, so there's some serious copium there. Anyway, Season 1 was all about Sutek's return, something fans actually guessed a long time before it happened, based on one joke from Doctor Who magazine and the presence of sand in a trailer. But what about Season 2? What's the storyline or main villain there? Well, I think I've figured it out. Or at least the majority of it. Mrs. Flood is still a mystery. As we get ever closer to the start of Season 2, I thought I'd try to blow the lid on the whole thing in a video that will probably age pretty horribly, but that's the fun of theorising. So join me, and obviously beware heavy spoilers, as I try to piece together the jigsaw of Doctor Who Season 2. Doctor Who has really stepped up its trailer game with some fantastic previews of the upcoming series. It just looks incredible. With such high production value, a cinematic sheen of quality and ambition. The trailers are full of things to analyse and break down, like fans obsessively examining this one laser beam as proof of the return of Doctor Who's most infamous monsters, the Daleks. But it's not the time to talk about that, nor is it time to talk about the theory that the Doctor will prove to be his own Mr. Ring-a-Ding and discover he's a fictional character. No, I already made a video about that one. We do know a fair amount about Season 2 already. Belinda clearly gets abducted by robots because she's a nurse and they're fighting a war on Planet Belinda, similar to Girl in the Fireplace. The Well is clearly a classic case of the Doctor getting roped into a dangerous space mission inside a bunker or a vault. The story in the engine seems to be about a giant mechanical spider monster killing young men, possibly in Lagos, Nigeria, judging by the phone numbers and surnames on the posters in Trailer 1, and also Ncuti Gatwa has been advocating for an African setting since early on in his promotional work. So it might be the Trickster God Anansi. The Interstellar Song Contest is obviously Eurovision in space, probably a classic murder mystery, and I think it's safe to say the main arc of the series is the Doctor trying to get new companion Belinda home because the TARDIS isn't working properly. But what about the episodes Lucky Day, Wish World, and the Reality War? The answers for those are much less obvious. Yet they're the most important 3 episodes of the whole season, and they all have something in common, or should I say, someone. So, let's talk about Lucky Day, episode 4 of Season 2. One of the more interesting episodes, just like 73 Yards was in the same slot in Season 1. And from what we know, Lucky Day is very similar in the sense that it's a Doctor Light episode, instead focusing on Ruby Sunday and Unit rather than the Doctor. Now again, much like 73 Yards, there has been a lot of public filming for this episode, more than any of the others. Yet we don't really know a whole lot about the actual plot of the story. It's quite interesting that they chose this episode for the preview clip at the end of Doctor Who Unleashed of Empire of Death, showing Ruby's return as a unit operative after leaving the Doctor behind. Also interesting is that this is one of the 3 episodes written without any of Russell T Davis's input, instead being handled by Pete McTighe of Kablam and Praxius fame. Okay, so it's not the best resume, but he's a solid hand with a lot of familiarity with Doctor Who's past and Unit's importance to the show. And that's what's going to be at the forefront of this episode. Unit being criticised and targeted by conspiracy theorists in a very modern critique of conspiracy paranoia and an exploration of the widespread mistrust in government agencies and institutions. And it will definitely be fascinating, since for the last 15 years of the show, UNIT has been running around doing whatever they want, however they want, and whenever they want, without any public acknowledgement or pushback. So it's a story long overdue. But what's most interesting is who seems to be stoking these flames of conspiracy. Conrad Clark. In summer 2024, actor Jonah Heyer-King was announced to be joining the cast of Doctor Who Season 2. Is it Heyer or Hauer? I'm gonna say Hauer for the rest of the episode. Heyer-King is a prestigious Nepo baby who went to Eton College and then studied at Cambridge. Oh look, I was there the other week. Although not at St John's, that was close to the public on that day. He was then cast in World on Fire, The Little Mermaid, and The Tattooist of Auschwitz. So he's a pretty fast rising star to be cast in the series. As early as the 5th of December 2023, we knew about Jonah appearing in the show, with set photos of him and Millie Gibson surfacing and indicating that their characters were romantic, along with there being a creepy monster as the antagonists, as our usual UNIT protagonists being there for the usual showdown. An interesting wrinkle is how this alien seems to be fake, since the actor in the suit is also in set photos alongside Jonah and Millie, along with being arrested in this alien costume, which isn't exactly how things usually go. In a bit I'll go into the specific details of how I think this all comes together. But these all seem to be the fundamental elements of Lucky Day, telling a very human story as Ruby explores life after the Doctor, much like characters like Martha and Sarah Jane, trying to continue her alien adventures because it's hard to leave that life behind. And the romantic angle seems like a very obvious storyline to include, because romance is always easy to include. Yet the extra twist here is that it's a completely fake romance, because Jonah is playing Conrad Clark, and he's not going anywhere just yet. Just like those like and subscribe buttons. So you better press them. In April 2024, photos and videos of Season 2's finale filming appeared online, showing lots of photos of Jonah, now revealed to be named Conrad, with dystopian taglines like "Questions cause problems," "Everyone can be happy," and "Follow Conrad without question." You know, the usual stuff you'd expect from a Hinge date. Great job, Ruby. Obviously, this sudden turn into a powerful villain is a bit of a step up from just a regular guy up to no good. It seems like Conrad is set to be the big bad of the finale, introduced halfway through the series before returning in a much bigger, more powerful form. We know from those filming reports that UNIT and its members are once again involved, or at least Ruby, Mel and Shirley are. It's very interesting how the UNIT-esque vehicles instead have the crown symbol of whatever Conrad's regime is, suggesting that maybe UNIT becomes his police state organization enforcing his truth. There's also an emphasis on something called May Day, which seems to be an event approaching whenever or wherever the finale takes place. Because yes, it seems like we're heading for a different timeline or a different reality where Conrad is in complete control. But how? Who really is Conrad? How and why does he get involved with Ruby? And most importantly, how does he become the powerful villain in the finale? Well, I actually think we already have enough pieces of the puzzle to put it all together. In the German trailer, or the second English trailer, there's a shot of the Doctor and Belinda in London on either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day 2007. I guess, judging by the fact fireworks are going off, it's a little bit of both. And of course, the year 2007 is explained by this young boy.
What year is this?
2007.
Now, first of all, the arc of Season 2 is clearly trying to get Belinda home, so I think this plays into it. The Doctor manages to get her to the right place, just at the wrong time, which is why she looks a bit disappointed to find out what year they've arrived in. I firmly believe this is the opening to the Doctor Light Lucky Day, because I'm convinced this young child is Conrad Clark. It just makes too much sense to me. And then this encounter with the impossible creates an obsession passion for Conrad as he grows up, very similar to Elton Pope in Love and Monsters, just a lot less wholesome and optimistic. When he's an adult, he's a Clive Finch-esque conspiracy podcaster obsessed with UNIT and all the recent alien activity. We know he's a podcaster based on the title card teaser, which has "With your host, Conrad Clark," with the events of episodes like The Star Beast, The Giggle, Empire of Death, and presumably even some historical episodes maybe. It makes a lot of sense that Conrad would have a lot of ammunition for his beliefs and his investigations. Investigations that lead him to Ruby Sunday, a new, young unit hire, lonely and looking for love. So he becomes her perfect guy, sweeps her off her feet and gains her trust to learn more about UNIT now that he has a woman inside. Which is when the alien interference begins. As far back as June 2024, the very reliable Doctor Who filming locations Twitter account posted a bit of a synopsis of Lucky Day, explaining that Conrad's plan is to accuse UNIT of lies in regards of aliens and tech and expose them to the public, which tracks with the protesters outside UNIT HQ demanding to see the monsters or aliens and demanding UNIT give back taxes. I'm expecting Conrad to be an alien skeptic stirring the pot and riling up these protesters, using his relationship with Ruby as a way to expose UNIT as frauds or paint them as some sort of government conspiracy. And as suggested by both filming images and that same Twitter post, Conrad's friend will be in a monster costume as part of this wider scheme. It will be like Scooby-Doo, a fake alien to draw UNIT's attention and make them look like fools chasing lies. After all, what better way to expose them and damage their credibility? However, I think this is where things get really interesting, because the clips from trailers seem to indicate there is actually a very real monster in the episode, one that looks just like the fake one. I mean, a human can't move the way we see this creature moving. So what if there are shenanigans where Conrad's friend meddles with something he shouldn't and actually becomes the monster he was pretending to be? It reminds me a bit of Primeval Series 2 Episode 4, where Connor's nerdy sci-fi obsessed friends get roped into one of his adventures, only for one of them to die as a consequence, driving home the personal danger of dealing with such threats and how easily things can go wrong despite it seemingly being a sci-fi dream come true. It might all be a game to Conrad and his friend, but it would be poetic justice for them to need UNIT to bail them out when they push things too far. After all, it's like they say, be careful what you wish for. One of the most interesting titles for Season 2 is Part 1 of the finale, Wish World. We really have no idea what this episode is going to be about at all, aside from all this bone iconography, which looks really cool by the way. I do love the title, Wish World. It just rolls off the tongue really well, and it reminds me a bit of the novel Wet World, which is all about the Doctor and Martha meeting sentient alien otters and fighting a Lovecraftian entity. It's a great book, by the way. Anyway, if you go by the usual Doctor Who rule of a title being very indicative of the main core of the episode, we're probably set for a world where wishes can come true. And what does a character like Conrad wish for above all else? Control, authority, always being right, the ability to dictate truth and control the narrative. So I believe that somehow Conrad will end up on this wish world, and it will lead to this finale where he is the god of his own reality, a reality the Doctor and our protagonists are trapped within, and UNIT is replaced by Conrad's own powerful organisation and secret police. I think this finale will be very much like a Moffat two-parter, where the second half is significantly different in setting and tone than the first half. The name The Reality War seems to suggest exactly that. A war for reality itself, as the protagonists try to stop Conrad before his wish destroys the real reality. It's all very simple. But how likely is all this? After all, it's just a theory. Okay, no, I'm not doing that. I'm taking reliable set reports and interpreting the slim rest with some pretty safe guesses. I'm pretty damn confident in everything I've speculated upon so far. We still have some loose ends. How will Conrad be stopped? Showrunner Russell T Davies insists Ruby is still a crucial part of Season 2's story, so maybe she plays a role in defeating her former boyfriend. But how does Belinda fit into all of this? And most importantly, there's still Mrs. Flood to consider consider. She's by far the biggest mystery of this entire era. She knows about the TARDIS. She was seemingly coincidentally Ruby's neighbour. She knew about Sutek's return, and she can break the fourth wall with knowledge of the Doctor's future. Season 2 is going to make her even more enigmatic, since we already know she's due to appear in Lux and the Interstellar Song Contest, and Russell T Davies has claimed she will show up in every episode somehow, proving she has her own ability to time travel. Possibly like Billis Manger from Torchwood, who could simply step from one time and place to another. I feel like Mrs. Flood is the true antagonist of the Season 2 finale, and her identity will be the huge reveal we've recently been promised by Ncuti Gatwa and Varada Setu. There is a theory that she's going to be the god of wishes, but I think that's a bit too specific and it doesn't really work as a huge reveal. But I definitely expect there to be some kind of link between her and Conrad that comes to a head in the finale. Hell, this is very outside of the realms of possibility, but wouldn't it be crazy if Mrs. Flood was actually the trickster and made a deal with Conrad in the typical trickster scheme to disrupt reality and attack the Doctor? Maybe she's the Valeyard and Conrad is her companion. Who knows? But I'm certain these two are the main villains of Season 2, since Mrs. Flood has started giving off much more villainous vibes than she did to begin with. I just have no idea how they're supposed to be defeated. You know, I know the basic story blocks, but I don't know how it's all going to be resolved. The most fun part about any new Doctor Who series is not knowing what's to come. We could be set for a banger, an all-time great, or we could be in for a complete stinker and a flop. You just never know. But Season 2 looks absolutely incredible. We seem to have a lot of strong sci-fi stories incoming. From cartoon characters coming to life, to robot spiders, abandoned vaults to alternate realities. There's so much range and ambition. It is really fun to speculate on what's going to happen in each episode, but especially when it comes to the overall story arc, which seems so fascinating. It's a great idea to use a mid-season Doctor-like episode to establish and seed the threat for the finale. It's like how Series 1 introduced the Daleks halfway through, only for them to then return in the finale. And then Series 2 did the same with the Cybermen. So it makes a lot of sense that Conrad will make his first appearance in Lucky Day, which introduces his character and reveals his secret evil motives, before he returns in the finale as a much bigger and more powerful villain in control of his own reality. I think Davis wants to tell a story about an evil Doctor Who fan, so to speak. Conrad's backstory seems to have a lot of similarities to Elton Pope or Clive Finch, but instead of wanting to seek the Doctor for answers and optimism, he's a cynical and bitter skeptic wanting to disprove things like UNIT and the Doctor. That's what I think the idea behind Conrad is. Someone who wants control over reality because of his conspiracies and skepticism, especially since he would no doubt blame Unit and Ruby for his friend becoming a horrific monster and dying. But what is Mayday? Who is Mrs. Flood? I have no idea. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And on that terrible disappointment, that's enough from me. What do you think about Season 2's endgame? What's the deal with Conrad and will he be the big bad? Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
And I'd just like to give a special thank you to my Asbantium level patron, Fowlon Cortez, my Platinum level patron, Matthew Burns, and all my Gold level patrons, Ben Salmon, Chris Douglas, Daniel Shillito, Lee Marie, Penguin of the Patreon, and Seb Falco. Thank you so much for your support.